Welcome to The Big Rich Show. This podcast will focus on conversations with friends and acquaintances within the four-wheel drive industry. Many of the people that I will be interviewing, you may know the name, you may know some of the history, but let's get in depth with these people and find out what truly makes them a four-wheel drive enthusiast. So now's the time to sit back, grab a cold one, and enjoy our conversation.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Why should you read 4Low Magazine? Because 4Low Magazine is about your lifestyle, the four-wheel drive adventure lifestyle that we all enjoy. Rock crawling, trail riding, event coverage, vehicle builds, and do-it-yourself tech, all in a beautifully presented package. You won't find 4Low on the newsstand rack, so subscribe today and have it delivered to you. Today's guest on Conversations with Big Rich is Jeff Hauser. Got a couple of questions that we want to ask you and, see how you got into off-road running sportsman in our We Rock Unlimited class. So shoot away.
I grew up motocross background, did that for quite a while, on and off since I was probably 16. Life happened. I ended up with my daughter, and that kind of changed the whole dynamics. I mean, doing the motocross thing, it's all about going fast. If you're not going fast, then it's, and having the fear of getting hurt kind of took the edge away. I didn't have the drive anymore. So the old saying, with age comes a cage. And I had a Jeep. That was the first rig that I had, and I took it on a trail run one time. I mean, it was more of a pavement princess than anything. And the one time I took it off-road, it was pretty fun. I mean, I'd done some off-roading, but nothing serious. So I had that Jeep, and I think it was back in probably like 2004 or 5, somewhere in there. I went to my first rock crawl in Goldendale. I remember seeing that. I mean, I'm thinking a rock crawl, what's a rock crawl? And I get there and I'm just blown away. I mean, I think there was a guy in a yellow Samurai, I forget his name, Iceman or something. He went by that. I don't know if you recall who that was.
Oh yeah, Dean Bullock.
Yeah, and then there was another rig that stuck out in my head, and it was a little Honda buggy with the rear engine. At the time, it was orange.
Brent Bradshaw.
Yeah. And I mean, I was sitting there, I remember watching and just kind of in awe going, I mean, how did they come up with these things? What would it take? And, it was just more of a thought that crossed my mind. So with time, ended up doing a little more off-road and stuff, bought another Jeep. Wasn't like a capable rig, but, something just to go up in the hills. And then I ended up getting my first Toyota that was semi-built, beat on that for about 6 months. And I mean, where we go up here, it's pretty popular. I mean, you got rocks, trails, mud if you want it. So that was kind of the start, getting it in my blood a little bit, and playing in the rocks and, just getting a feel for it. So
okay, you mentioned where you're from.
Yep.
But where are you from? What's the name of the city?
Yeah. So I live in Eastern Washington, in Natchez. And for anybody that's looking to go wheeling in Washington, Google Natchez or Funny Rocks, Moon Rocks, Natchez, and that'll give you an idea. Pretty cool place if you haven't been there. But yeah, I'm probably, an hour from my house to be in the rocks. That's counting dirt road most of the way. You can't go too fast in the buggy. We'd go up in the Jeeps, you could cover a lot more ground faster.
Right.
So that, and then I'll go to Goldendale, and then just down the road from Goldendale, down in Dallasport, there's tons of rocks to go practice on. We haven't been there yet. We're getting ready to take the new car. We're working on that and trying to get it to where we can maybe tomorrow go out.
I looked into doing an event in Dallasport on all that lava rock that's out there.
Yeah.
Because there'd be some great parking areas, and the rock looked really cool. Of course, it's brutal on tires, but there's like the River Conservatory Act or something, whatever they call it, and there's certain things that you can't do within the drainage area for the river, for the Columbia River, from what I understand. And so I was told, don't even think about putting an event on down in there.
Yeah, I'm not real familiar with that. It would almost be worth checking into. I know they've been doing some trials events there, and the formations and the rocks that we have, everything's all on private property. So
I'd love to hear more about that from, I'd love to talk to the person that has that property.
Absolutely. And the nice thing about that is, I mean, you got tons of parking. It would be good for the spectators because it'd be like Baghdad, where you could see everything all at once.
Right. Cool. So you grew up in Natchez as well?
Yes. Or no, I'm sorry. I grew up in Enumclaw, got tired of the rain and chaos on the west side and moved east. And I've been there since 2004.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's talk about your early rigs. You mentioned the Toyota. The Toyota was kind of the next step up from more of a street rig. Is that
right? Yeah. So the first time I took that out, learned about burr fields, trying to pull somebody out in reverse that was stuck, and that pretty much ended my weekend. And it's when I learned about the long fields and, building them and, just going through trying to see what everyone else was using and trying to come up with something that didn't break.
Do you do the wrenching mostly yourself? I know that you have somebody helping you with some fab work on the new buggy.
Yeah.
But do you do a lot of the wrenching yourself?
I don't. I do what I can to help. Like last year, Thomas Cahill and Jesse Bigby, Jesse was spotting, Tom was wrenching, and Jesse would help as well. Actually, there was a lot of people that helped, but I mean, my main core team and wrenchers, mechanics, fab, you name it. But I don't have the patience or the confidence, I mean, I want to be able to, if I take it apart, did I put it together right? And I mean, in all honesty, I just want to go drive.
Understood.
Those guys, they're really good at what they do. I got Kyle Career that's doing it now, and he's got a gift. I mean, he's impressive. Every time I see that car, it's I just shake my head.
Well, let's talk about the evolution of going from the Toyota and any other rig you have, and then deciding. You said you came to the Goldendale and watched the Cal Rock, We Rock event back then.
Yep.
That got your interest peaked. At about what time did you say, okay, I got to try to take this stuff seriously and come out and start competing? When was that thought process?
So I went and ended up getting a Toyota buggy, and that was about the time I met my wife. We went up and ran that quite a bit. I actually bought it from one of my sponsors, Matt over at Rogue, and bought that, and that was kind of like the next level rig, and it was pretty capable. I didn't have a body on it. It was tube, still had doors and a cab, but I mean, for the most part, I didn't have to worry about destroying it. So I was able to do a lot different lines and more technical stuff. And I got that satisfaction, that I did when I was racing motocross, when you were, at the starting gate and dropping, or, side by side with somebody coming into a set of doubles or through the whoops or something like that, getting in that rig and picking lines and going, seeing what it was capable of doing, and just, wow, okay, so now I'm going to go try this. And that was kind of the turning point. But we were still a long ways from it. It was there, the burn. If something came up and there was a possibility of even doing it, we would do it. At that point, I kind of got out of the wheeling with that rig. I sold it, got back into fishing pretty serious. I've always done that.
Not a whole lot of adrenaline rush fishing.
No, and the frustration of this state. I mean, I've always been into the outdoors, the hunting and fishing, but really took it serious at this point. I got rid of the Toyota buggy because it was on propane. I hated the propane. I hated trying to fill the tanks, and they were in a bad spot. And it was fun to run, but to get it to the next level, that wasn't an option with that particular rig. I didn't want to put the money into it to do that. I'd have rather bought something else and started over. So I got rid of it with the intentions, eventually getting something else. Got really serious into the fishing. We had a few good years, and my wife liked doing it, and we were either on the river or on the lake somewhere, but mostly salmon, steelhead, and up there in Roosevelt, Washington, up there on Lake Roosevelt. So, and then all the laws and rules and changes, and it got to the point where I could call my buddy up, which is a guide, and spend $250 with him, and he's on the river all the time, catching fish, knows what's up, where they're at, what they're biting on, then trying to figure it out. And I get off work and find out they shut the river down or shorten the season. It got to the point where the frustration, it was more work than it was fun. And that's when I started thinking about getting rid of the boat. And then we started talking about rock crawling. So my buddy Aaron Montgomery and Jenny Montgomery, they're sponsors of us. They have M&M Heavy Haul. Aaron's he's kind of an adventure seeker, likes to buy and sell and trade, and he had a couple of rigs that he wanted to get rid of, and he asked me if I'd list them for him, because where he lives, he has like next to nothing as far as internet, and if somebody wanted to come out there, it's a long drive. So I listed them for him, and they were kind of specialty rigs type of deal, where one was a Roadster, and then I can't even remember what the other one was. It was a Roadster and something else, but we sold the one and we had the Roadster. It was a T-bucket car, and I get this guy that sends me this picture of this buggy, because we put buggy on there, we'd be possibility that we'd do some trading and be interested in something like that. And I get this picture of this buggy, and it's like, I have to have that. And so I'm talking to the guy, and the more, we started talking, the more I wanted it. And then he's like, well, I guess I don't want to trade. It's not, I thought I did, but I'm going to hang on to my buggy. So I was like, okay, well, I stayed in touch with him, and he'd hit me up once in a while, and you sure you don't want to buy it? And well, yeah, maybe. So we have this other guy that gets a hold of us, and he has this 74, 76 Bronco. And this thing is cool. It's set up really good, far from being perfect, but a nice, way better than the T-bucket as far as we were concerned. This was a kit car. It wasn't like an original, anything like that. We make the deal with him to possibly, do the swap. So I take a day off of work. Aaron comes over, brings his trailer, have the T-bucket in there, and we drive to Lewiston, Idaho. End up doing the deal. So we get this Bronco loaded up. Our other deal was this guy that we'd been talking to on the buggy. We finally come to the conclusion, we'll go buy the buggy, and we'll just try it. We'll just go do an event or two and just see, is this something we want to do? For me, I was like a kid at Christmas. I just couldn't wait. I was like, here's my chance. I don't even care if I only do one event. I just want to do it. I mean, it's always been kind of like a dream. After I got it, got a little taste of it and got it into my head that, how fun it was. And I'd had a few more rigs since then. I had a JK that we built pretty well. I mean, it was coilovers and hydro steering and, but still a Jeep, I mean, you still had the body and it was actually a pretty fun rig. I mean, we had a good time in that. And so at that point I had that car, or still had my Jeep, and we went and picked up the Bronco, and I was talking to the guy on the buggy and call him up and, okay, we're going to go buy it. We come to a price, and Aaron's helping me out. He's going to pay for it, and we'll decide what we're going to do after that. So we load the Bronco up. I call him and get the measurements of the buggy. The buggy, we were going to meet him in Vegas. He was coming up from Arizona, measure it, and it's like an inch that we would be able to get both these rigs in this trailer, because we didn't want to drop the Bronco off and then drive all the way back, and we wanted to do it this weekend, that a 3-day weekend, we can figure it out. So measure it, tells me what it is, and I'm measuring the Bronco, and I mean, it's like, okay, this is going on somebody else's measurements. We're driving all the way to Vegas. I mean, could we drive down the road with the door part way open? I mean, we're like weighing it out. So of course I am somewhat of a bad influence on him. I'm like, let's go. He's like, serious? And I'm like, yep, let's just do it. I mean, we took the day off. Let's go on a road trip. And we get this thing all tied down in there, go fill the tank up. And I call Eddie Orton and say, hey, we're a go. We will meet you mapping it out in Vegas at this time. So Aaron and I, of course, are like hell bent to get there. I mean, this is like, I don't even know what to explain. I'm thinking, holy crap, we're going to have this buggy. We can go wheeling and not have to worry about doors or windows or mirrors on the Jeep. Because the one time I did get in a tough spot with my wife and daughter in the Jeep, it was a real tight pinch. The only time I broke anything on that Jeep too, that axle wise, drivetrain wise, but got in there and got kind of wedged and did a little rubbing, and other than fixing the mirror, it was nothing. So anyways, I'm thinking now I got a rig that I can go do something with. So Eddie already had me all jacked up. I mean, I was ready to go. Eddie is. I'd never even met him, but I felt like we were friends for life, type of deal. And, you buy it, I'll even come spot for you. And it's like, I mean, what better deal can you have? It's like, I got a guy that's done this, he's willing to do this. It's like, seriously, I mean, why not? So long story short, we make the trip, get there, and we're like, we made really good time. So we got to wait. And I'm like, well, I'm going to call him and see if he'll get here tonight. I just want to get it loaded and get home and, get back on the road. And he had some other arrangements. So we had to sleep in the truck and there at the Pilot, which was hard to do because I'm thinking about this car and, having something that I can take to the next level and actually compete in if we wanted to. He shows up. Of course, I'm looking at this thing because, I hadn't really seen, up there at the Funny Rocks, you see buggies, but you really don't know what you're looking at. Or for me, I didn't know what I was looking at. Some of them were running LS powered, big motors. Some of them were running the small, just a little bit of everything. But this is a full-on comp car that had competed, and, so I'm looking at it. And of course, I'm like, let's get it. It didn't matter. And Aaron, he, like I said, I'm a bad influence on him. He's like, okay, well, if this is, we'll do it. And we figured we'd get our money back out of it if, we just wanted to run it and then we'd get rid of it. Well, I get in it and it's not very comfortable. I'm a little taller than Eddie, not much, but enough to where it's like, what am I going to do in this thing now? We're going to have to figure something out. So this is after I got it home. I mean, I didn't care when I was there. I don't even remember sitting in it. I think Eddie might have loaded it. I was just wanting to get on the road and get out of there. So we start loading it, and I'm looking, I'm like,
did it fit in the trailer?
It's not going to fit. And I'm like, God. And I was telling Aaron the whole time, I'm like, let's stop somewhere. We'll buy some blocks and we'll drive the Bronco up on. It'll give us a few more inches. And of course, as we're going and we get through this town and that town, and we'll be all right. We just wanted to keep going. So we get there and we're loading it, and it's like 3 inches. And it's enough to where we're just going to strap the door. And so we take the bumper off. That gets us down a little more. And then we had some blocks, a couple blocks, just enough to where I can't remember how we did it. But anyways, we get these things loaded in there. And I mean, it's like nuts to butts, tight. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, we actually had an inch to spare. So I'm thinking, we're good. Let's go. Then I start thinking, okay, bearings on the trailer. Aaron is pretty good at maintenance, so I'm thinking we're good as far as that goes. But you start asking yourself all these questions. I mean, we got a pretty good load. We got a Bronco and we have a buggy in it was a 24-foot trailer. So it's tight and it's fairly heavy, so I'm thinking, you know what, we made it this far. No time to quit now. Let's just go. And I'm like thinking, how am I going to buy this thing? How am I going to talk my wife into it? What can I get rid of? I'm going through all the scenarios. So we get home, we check it out, and we were just going to run it, maybe one event, and, we'll sell it here if it doesn't, if it's not what we want. So I get it home, and I actually finally start to get in it, sit in it, trying to figure it out. Call Eddie like 20 times, trying to figure out what this switch is and what's that, and how do you do this, and what do you think about this? And I think he started looking at his phone, seeing that I was calling. He's just like, oh no, nope, pushing the button, denying the call. But actually, no, honestly, he was amazing. He helped me with everything I needed, had all the questions, and told me what he could. So I felt pretty good. And we took it out the first time, and it was really tight in there. And I'm like, I can't do this. This thing is just, but I'd been wheeling for, I drove an hour on a dirt road to get to where we could even start wheeling. So that didn't help anything. And long story short, after doing it, I'm like, okay, take it or leave it. I know that my wife's going to not really be all in on this whole deal. Just because, she sacrificed so much, on other things where every time I do a new mod to my Jeep, Chad over at Build It Off Road, I'd walk in there and I'm like, okay, here's what I'm thinking. And how can I make this like a safety thing, and let her know, this is all about safety. We want to go up and we want to be able to drive back home. Now I get that thrown in my face all the time. Anything I want to do, she's like, let me guess, it's about safety. And yeah, it is. We got to do a take 5 and, do all our safety precautions. So yeah, we do need that part. I get her talked into letting me do one event. So we're doing this event over in Idaho. It's called Groundhog. And that's the first rock crawl we ever did. I'm like excited. I can't wait to go. I just want to, get my feet wet, see what it's all about. And Chad and Jolene, the owners over at Build It Off Road, they came with their kids, and it was just a 1-day event. So we stayed over there in, it was in Bend. Did I say Boise? I meant Bend. So we're over in Bend at this nice motel, and which was cool because there was a pool. So the kids, it wasn't all about me. And I felt like it was, so we go to dinner, and then there's a pool, and, everyone's having a good time. And I'm just thinking, I can't wait till tomorrow, laying there, went to bed, and I'm thinking about lines. And okay, Aaron he was my spotter. He'd never even, spotted or anything. He does have a Jeep, and he's he's into it. He's got an LJ that's built, and he basically went out and bought it and dropped it off, didn't drive it or anything, and dropped it off, built it off road, and told Chad, just do what you want, so to speak. I mean, it was kind of cool to see the transformation of that thing, and cool rig. But anyways, he spotted for me, and we got out there, and of course that car was the way their classes were. It was like an unlimited car or something like that. I can't even remember. Some of the cars that we were running against, there was a couple pretty decent rigs and good drivers. I mean, we got smoked, but we got out on the first course, and it was like, I mean, you got to start somewhere. And that was my biggest thing, you know. I mean, if you don't try it, you're never going to know. And I'm looking, I'm seeing, I remember when I was racing motocross, you'd get on the starting line, the guy next to you would have a bike. I mean, he looked like a factory guy. I mean, just looking at him, you knew he was fast. And then you'd look at the results at the end of the race, or if I'd won the moto, I'm like, I beat that guy. You know, I'm thinking that guy can't be that fast. And you look and he's like mid-pack or way down there. But, you know, it was always in your head. You know, you'd see these guys. I mean, anything you could put on the bike, you know, tons of money, sitting there on a starting line with an umbrella, somebody holding over his head, and you're thinking, he's got to be fast, you know. And so a little bit of that popped back in. You know, I'm looking at these other cars and thinking, damn, these things are, there was a couple of rear steers, and, you know, I'm thinking, okay, well, we'll just go do what we do. I mean, that's all we can do. We got to start somewhere. So we get out there, and on the first course, we did really well. And I'm thinking, okay, cool. I got a little confidence. I'm thinking, we can run with these guys. And the whole time I told Aaron, I said, we can do it. I mean, we just got to get a rig. And I mean, it's like anything else, you know, even like the fishing. You see 300 boats out there going around a little circle, salmon fishing. And I remember the first time I did it, I thought I was going to go out there and slay them. You know, everybody's catching fish. And that's all I did is watch people catch fish. So it was one of those things. I'm like, okay, it's the same thing. Just get out there, and you got to try it. You got to do it. So get out there, do it. The next course, we're horrible. I mean, we're like plus 20 something. I'm like, no biggie, you know, we'll just keep going, doing our thing. And just kind of started the next one. It was bad. I think there was like 6 or 7 different ones. But it was just a one-day event. So they were cramming them in there. And then we started to get some rhythm, and, you know, just silly stuff that we were doing. But, you know, it's like, okay, now we know where we're at. We know what this is somewhat about. And to me, your events are like kind of like the elite, the wee rock. I mean, that's like the cool stuff, you know, of rock crawling. So that was our next thing, Goldendale. And we're sitting there thinking, okay, we get there. I think I talked to you a few times before it, and I'm, you know, just trying to get a feel and, you know, support, and trying to say, hey, if, you know, lend a hand. I think I brought you some signs or something. And just trying to understand and see the format of that and how that went. Get there. And so we ran the sportsman, but we got to run the unlimited courses. So I didn't understand how the classes were. I know Eddie told me when I bought that car, he goes, the cool thing about this car is you can run Sportsman A, and you don't have to go out there on your first deal and do the unlimited stuff. So I'm thinking, okay, cool. I got a car that I can run Sportsman A. So I'm going to go ask Rich if this car can really do Sportsman A. I'm like, do you know this car? Oh yeah, I know that car. I've seen it. I mean, that thing's been around forever. Everybody's had it. It seems like wherever I'd go, oh, I remember when it was here or there, and we did this to it, and then it had that. And anyways, we get there, get set up, look at the courses, and I'm thinking, I don't remember Goldendale looking like this. I hadn't been there since the first event that I'd ever seen. And so I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, oh, we could do this, you know. And then we get out there, and I'm bellied out on everything. But anyways, before that, we get signed up, we're checking everything out. It's it's at that point, I'm just kind of looking, it's like surreal, I'm thinking, we're here, we're doing it. And I thought, I never thought I'd really do it, but, and to some people, I mean, you think, oh, it's no big deal. I mean, what's the big deal? But to us, it was. So we get everything unloaded and set up, and, a driver's meeting, and, you're looking around and you're seeing some, this is legit, some of the stuff, but there wasn't very many, of course, it's Goldendale, a lot of the unlimited guys, a lot of sportsmen. And there was some cool stuff, that was there. Oh, wait, let me throw one thing in. I did forget. I did do another rock crawl, the Reader rock crawl. It was prior to this. I did it before Goldendale. So I did Bend and then I did Reader. And Reader, we did not complete a single course. It was brutal. I thought after I got done there, I'm like, I'm never coming back here. I mean, it was big rocks. It was different than what we do on most of the We Rock events. It was more like boulders, and it was man-made. So they were placed, the way that they did them, and logs. And now looking back, it was actually pretty cool, but I told myself I'm never coming here again. It was a waste. So last year we did go back, and I'm glad I did. Had a good time. It was fun. They did have another course. I basically went more so for the seat time at that point, because we were running your series. It was a good time, but the first time to go back in time, not to jump around here, but we I mean, like I said, I loaded the car. I was like, I couldn't wait to get home. I was like, I'm done. I mean, we were bellied out, timed out on everything. I mean, it was just frustrating. It's like, and I looked at these things and I thought, oh yeah, we could do that. I mean, I remember when we were going to the first course, a guy broke an axle just trying to get onto the course. And I was thinking, Jesus, I mean, just to get there is like a gauntlet. So, but not everybody did that. The cool thing that I took away from that event is I met Jason Conover, and he's been an inspiration, and Nate, those two guys, I mean, I didn't know them, but they were helpful. That was the one thing, just the people that you meet, everybody's kind of willing to help out. So Jason, I got to talking to him, and some of the stuff that he's done, and his cars that he built, the S&N Fab cars and stuff like that, and shed some light on stuff. And then I ended up kind of staying in touch with him, talk to him, or we message each other quite often. And in fact, I was going to have him take my buggy that I had and build a car this year, but with some other challenges, we were just not able to do that. So I'll get to that. That rock crawl was, like I said, never going back. So we end up at Goldendale. We're doing that. We get there. First day, I remember watching James Tracy. He made it look so easy. It's like, we can do this.
James does
Sportsman.
That.
Yeah, he's in Sportsman. I mean, we're kind of comparable, right? Oh, Jesus. So, and then Nate was in our class too. So that's when I met Nate. I'm watching these guys, and, I'm going, okay, yeah, we're pretty much out of our league again. But that's okay. We're here, we're doing it, and we're getting seat time. So Corey, he ended up becoming my spotter, which it was a little bit tough because he worked nights. And Corey Stump, he helps Chance Holloman on their Ultra 4 car there for Hammers. But anyways, he came over to spot for me because he'd been in this, and he may have competed in a We Rock event or two or something like that. But anyways, he started spotting for me, and we went that route. He spotted the first day, and we both at the end of the day were just like, he's apologizing. I'm saying, hey, well, I mean, I've got other options, and I'm thinking, is it him or is it me or is it a combination? But I started thinking, okay, he drove over. It was a long drive after working nights. enjoy the event. Go walk around. Don't worry about me. You know, I want him. I mean, we're not going to do anything anyways. It's just, we're here, we're competing, and this is what we wanted to do. So I wanted him to enjoy his time. And so I went over and grabbed a buddy of mine, Nate Shilperoot. He came over and I tried to talk him into spotting for me. And I know he didn't want to, but he did anyways. So he did a good job. I mean, it was kind of fun because he's wheeled way more than I had at that point, and probably even now today. I mean, he's always up in the woods, side by side or Jeep. But anyways, he spotted that event and or that second day, and we did much better the second day. It felt better. I mean, we were starting to kind of hit a little bit of rhythm. Got that done and ended up at that point, I felt like, okay, I've done 3 events. We'll sell the car. I mean, thank you, Aaron and Jenny, for the opportunity. I mean, what more could I say? I got to do it. So I'm talking to my wife, trying to come up with a game plan. We'll sell the car. And I'm like, I'm going to sell my boat too. I mean, at that point, Springer Fishing came on and I was just over it. It was so frustrating. By the time the fish got into the river, they shut it down, and I got a $30,000 boat sitting there, and I don't want to use it. It's $300 to hook on. By the time you do gas in the boat, food, bait, all the other crap you get, a minimum. So I'm like, I'm going to sell it. If I want to go fishing, I'll call up my buddy John at Plug Off Outfitters. I can go with him. You know, $250. I don't have to worry about someone stepping on a rod or running around trying to figure the fish out and not even catch anything while they're, you know, all the time. Like I said, that's what they do, and they're tossing them in. Sometimes it takes a little while to get to that point. So I sell the boat, and now I'm working on selling the car. And I had it listed, and my wife at that point said, well, I mean, you sold the boat. Why don't you just keep the car and compete? And that's where it started. Really, I mean, that was okay, we got a feel for it in those 3 events and, you know, kind of seeing what happened. And I'm thinking, okay, you don't need to tell me twice. Done deal. After I sold my boat, I sold my tackle and a bunch of rods. I ended up with like $11,000, and she was like shocked on how much. I was too, I'm not going to lie. I mean, but I had a room that was literally like a sporting goods store. I mean, if I needed bait, I'd just go down to the freezer. It was all in there. I mean, we took it pretty serious. So I sell this gear and I give Aaron the money, and I'm going to buy the car with some time. And I end up doing that, or let me back it up. I got rid of my white Jeep and I got this LJ. My JK, I was going to compete with that. I'm like, screw it, I'll just run that thing. It was done up good. But this guy had this LJ close to where I lived, and it was really built. I mean, it was linked, nice rig, LS, awesome rig. Anyways, it was very capable, good wheeling rig. I'm like, I'll compete in that. So I'd bought in that, then sold the boat. And then it kind of started to snowball. So I sold the tackle, and that's what got me buying the car from Aaron. And then once she told me that, I decided to sell the LJ, which I hated doing, but there was more to the LJ thing. It was kind of cool. So I sold the LJ, paid off the buggy, met the guys that bought the LJ, ended up becoming really good friends, and they live over on the west side. They've come to a few of my rock crawls. They sponsor us, McNeil Septic, and actually they were going to come down. They're going to bring their rigs down to Sand Hollow, and we are going to spend some time wheeling and stuff, take a week and just go screw off. But obviously with this COVID thing going on, everybody knows what that's all about. So sell the LJ, pay the buggy off. Now I own it. So I'm thinking, okay, I need to, you know, come up with a game plan. What are we going to do here? And I talked to Eddie a little bit, and, you know, it was way out there. before we were going to do anything. So I figured I met Jesse Bigby, I think once. It was kind of ironic because Jeremy Sodorf, he spotted for Jeremy, and Jeremy's with the Toyota. He's done all your events there in Goldendale. And then those guys ran the full series here a while back. And so I knew Jesse was spotting. Jeremy wasn't really doing a whole lot as far as the full series. He was just focusing on the local stuff, Goldendale, and that sort of thing. He's been busy, with work and life and all that stuff. So I reached out to Jesse and I called him up and I said, hey, what do you think? Are you interested in maybe trying to do the full series? And he's like, I don't even think he hung the phone up and he was at my house type of deal. So that's commitment. So I'm feeling good. I'm like, okay, he's done it before. And I mean, I'm still newbie green, I'm just taking it all in. I'm still thinking, now we're doing it, So Jesse gets a hold of Tom, and I got Chad Veazey at Build It Off Road, and I've got pretty good support getting going. So we all kind of sit around and talk about it and how we going to do it, come up with somewhat of a plan. So we load the buggy up, take it over to Jesse's. And that's when we start going through it and really seeing what we have here and, changing a few things and, getting it to our satisfaction. But the bad thing is I had to have surgery on my foot. So I go in, I get the surgery, and then I start counting. Then the schedule comes out for We Rock. And I'm counting the days, and I'm like, oh, man, I might still be in a cast. So I go down. I don't think they casted it. No, they didn't. I had this other deal on there. I think I got cleared the Wednesday before we took off for Baghdad. So car's ready. I can barely walk. Like literally, I couldn't put my shoe on because my foot was still too swollen. So I borrowed one of Jeremy's shoes. So that guy with the mismatched shoes at Baghdad 2 years ago. We're trying to walk the courses. I can't even walk the courses. It's like, just tell me which way to turn. I mean, let's just get this first one. We only need to do three of the four, but if we can get here and just get on the board and get this one behind us, we'll be better for, the rest of the season. We get to Baghdad. Everybody came, it was cool. Jeremy came, Friday's wife. Thomas rolled in and slept in the trailer the first night. And we figured that wasn't, Tom, we got to get you a room or something, So long story short, we stayed over in Prescott. Jesse stayed in the motel in Baghdad. Tom's sleeping in the trailer. Jeremy and Friday are in the camper. And it's just kind of a shit show. But we roll in there. We fire up the car and we're getting ready to go for the little run up to the mine, and we're thinking, cool. Well, we've done all this work and we have not got to run the car at all. So we're thinking we need to go on this. So we parked by Charlie Vaca, and Charlie was like, it was cool because, he's looking at our car and talking about his, and Charlie is, it just felt, okay, we've got a person, a friend. So it's not just us. So Charlie's like, well, are you going to go or not? And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to go. So we take off out of there, get up towards the mine, and my car dies. I'm like, Jesus, here we go. And now we're at the furthest point and get it started back up, runs for a little while, and it dies. So I'm having fuel pump issues. I reach out on the We Rock site and on the competitor site that you have, ask if anyone has a fuel pump. It was crazy. The people that, were willing to help, and Tyler ended up having one. I didn't end up needing it, but we're messing with it. This guy comes over and he's looking at it, and I'm thinking, okay, cool. This guy knows what he's talking about. He's asking these questions, and it sounds like, I'm sitting there going, look over and I see his car, and it's like, okay, we're good. Did a few things, checked a couple other things, go and take it for a spin. Everything's fine. It feels good. It's running good. We're okay. but we do have a spare fuel pump at this point. So I'm thinking, okay, we'll be fine. We didn't drive, 2 days to watch an event with a car in the trailer. We go to bed and get up, and, the excitement of the first big deal. We're out of our own town. I mean, we're here. We're at We Rock. And just watching, like everybody, I mean, you could tell the guys had been there, I mean, it's just the normal thing. For us, it's a big deal. So we're thinking, you know what, let's go do what we do. Let's go get out there, and you still got to put your shoes on or boots or whatever, get your helmet on. Everybody's got to do the same thing. Anything can happen. Let's just go have fun. At that point, my wife had flown in. She wasn't able to travel with us because she had to work. So I'm feeling good. We got our group, and let's go. And so we split the groups up, and, you're looking at people, and there's a few other people that hadn't done it. And I end up talking to this guy that's like either in front of me or behind me. We get to talking, have a pretty good conversation throughout the day. We're running the courses. The first day, first course, it actually cost us we may have had an opportunity to win, but I almost ran Jesse over. Barely, I can't remember. We may have timed out. I can't remember the whole thing, but it was horrible. I mean, it was like, did we just do that? We don't belong here. I'm thinking, it's like, Jesus, that was embarrassing. But it's like, who cares? Everybody has their moments. So I had to just calm down. I get wound up pretty easy. So, and Jesse's the same way. So I ended up kind of being the one, like Jesse would get kind of crazy on the radio, and I'm like, what? And he goes, oh, no, it's okay. Sorry. I just, and so as we're getting to learn each other, cause we'd never worked together. So after that, things got better. We got that first one, kind of like the first jitters out of the way, and here we are, we're going. So I'm talking to this other guy, which I find out he's from Washington also, and it's Brett Gilkey. Brett and I have, he finishes like 7th or something, or maybe I was 7th, or I can't remember. Maybe we were 5th and he was 7th. But anyways, Casey Aragon wins it. I remember when Casey pulled into the lot, I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that setup. That is awesome, and his buggy looked brand new. And I'm thinking, oh, we're not competing against those guys, rear steer, that thing, cool. A couple times we talked to them throughout the course and do our thing, and Duncans are doing their thing, and the day ends, and I look at the score, and a girl's beating me, and I'm like ticked off. I'm at the motel. I'm telling my wife, it's like, there's so many things that we could have done. I mean, we're mid-pack, and I'm thinking, okay, if we could clean it up, we could definitely make some progress here. We're not that far out. Some of the stuff we did, or I did, was just like easy to get. Definitely room for improvement. I apologize. I'm not making fun of you, Mackenzie. You're a great driver, but you were kicking my butt, and I didn't like it. So anyhow, we get back for the second day after a close call. We were heading there from the motel, and I'm cruising on the back roads from Prescott to Baghdad in this rental car, and I'm kind of messing around. It's a long straightaway, and I'm look at this little Nissan. My wife looks over, and we're doing like 102. I'm like, can you believe it's going that fast? Just playing around, I just wanted to show her, and being silly every once in a while. I look over as I'm going, there's like a big lot, and there's 2 stators sitting there as we go by. And I'm like, looks like we're done We Rockin', I'm thinking, I'm just waiting for them to pull out. And they don't. So I'm thinking, okay, somebody's looking out for me. I'm going to quit screwing off. It was just that one little stretch, just screwing around type of deal, almost cost us. So we get going, get to the event, get ready, and I'm feeling pretty good. I'm like, I told Jesse, I said, here's the deal. He goes, do you want to be conservative? I'm like, no. And he kind of gives me that look, and it's like, you know what? It's 3 out of 4. We have nothing to lose. We got to go run every bonus type of deal. I know we can do these things. It's dry. We're not dealing with the rain, the slick rocks like it was the first day. I'm like, let's just go for broke. We get out there, and right off the bat, we're on A1, and we have an awesome score. I mean, I think we were close to perfect on it. And that was one of the tougher courses, or I'm sorry, not A1, but C1.
C1.
Get through it. Now I've got a little confidence. I'm feeling like, okay, we belong here finally. Watching Tyler and Logan, those guys do their stuff. I'm watching them and doing the burn downs and all this stuff, and I'm thinking, dang, these guys are dialed. And here we are. We've got a more capable vehicle, but the driver's not as capable as them. I mean, I'm still learning it. I'm trying to get things figured out. We changed everything around. The second day we got out there, and I think we had the low score. It felt good to get out there and look at that and take that. That's what we took away from that event. And I told Thomas and Jesse, I'm like, we can win. I mean, literally, we can win this stuff. We can do this. I mean, we just got to clean up a few things. And so next event is Sand Hollow. We get some other stuff done on the car. Tom changed basically the whole front end to where one of the things on that thing is there was really poor visibility. So changed a bunch of stuff there. I could see a lot better. And now we got a little confidence. I'm feeling like we can do this, and I mean, we really actually won the second day, if you look at it like that. So trying to get them, and they're thinking the same way, and, let's go do what we can do. So we get to Sand Hollow. Beautiful place. I mean, just looking at it and just kind of in awe. It's like, I could stay here for the rest of my life and wheel and hang out with these golfers and go over to the reservoir and, screw off there in the water. I mean, this place is awesome. And so get the car unloaded, do our thing. And now we're feeling like, okay. And in between the two events, we've, Brett Gilkey and I, we talked on the phone a little bit, talked to Eddie. Are you going? No, why? I'm like, dude, you said you were going to spot for me. He was judging at Baghdad, and it's like, I'm looking at him and going, you're going to judge when I need you to spot. And but I had Jesse, so we were good. And so anyways, we get out there and just start doing what we do. And I told Jesse, I mean, it's all we can do. I'm not going to worry about what anyone else is doing or what their car is or anything. We just need to focus on us. So we start going, and we were doing good. Everything was just as planned. Had a couple little things that we screwed up on that in the back of my mind, it's like, okay, we can fix that tomorrow. I mean, now we're past that. Get to the last course, I'm thinking, okay, this car will do good on this, and we got it. So I back up the hill and or the rock, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna go through this bonus, no big deal, easy. And I start going, and when I dropped off it, and I didn't know this at the time, it felt like this happened, but I was like, I'm still, until we seen the video of my helmet cam, that's when it confirmed it. But when I dropped off it, I had my hand on the shifter, and it kind of jolted, so it put the car in reverse. So it kind of came up, and I'm like, I didn't even expect it to really come up that much. I knew that it wasn't anything that serious. And so I'm like, as it came up, and I'm like, gosh, it feels like it's still going. I'm going to drive through it. So I hit the gas, and I mean, that thing immediately endos, it flips. And I'm like, that was weird. I mean, it was almost like, why? And I went right through the cone, like Jesse said. In some of the pictures, it looks like he's running for his life. He did that a lot. I mean, there was a lot of times where I was like, man, I almost killed him. He's not spotting for me this year. He says he's busy, life. And it's like he's sitting there thinking, God, I'm glad I got out of that. I'm alive. So he ran for his life, and then comes up and goes, dude, we got to get the car back over. You made it through that thing. And I'm like thinking the same thing, but I can hear a lot of stuff like on the intercoms, and I'm thinking, I hear stuff's leaking and get out. And of course my wife wants to run out there, and I can hear her, and it's like, is this thing on fire? I mean, do I need to where are we at? I want to try to get the car back over so we can finish. So at that point, I didn't know it, but we were in first place, and that basically we were done. We couldn't get the car flipped back over, and I felt like I just let the team down, because I mean, in our minds, it's ours to lose. I mean, we won the second day there. We belong here. We're running good, just threw it away. The crazy thing about this is we get the car flipped back over with the help of everybody else that jumped in and helped and whatnot, and get it towed out. And Casey Aragon comes up and says, hey, you can take my truck and trailer. Keep in mind, he's in the points lead. He won Baghdad. Lets me take his pickup, just gives me the keys. And he doesn't really know me. He doesn't have to do this. Steve Nance lended a hand and, said, if anybody broke or this or that, I got my shop. I get a hold of Steve. Casey gives me his truck and trailer so I don't have to load my tank up and try to get it down there. It was a lot easier, faster. Load it up, take it down to Steve Nance, and the shock tower was tweaked and a couple other things. So Steve gets in there and gets it almost back to perfect. I owe you, Steve. Thank you so much. We get the car basically put back together, get back to the event, and we had some issues with the steering. From it being upside down, had to do a few things. And anyways, we get the car dialed back in. We can hear a noise. The whole weekend there was like a noise in the transfer case or the transmission. We were trying to figure it out, couldn't figure it out. And I'm thinking, okay, something's screwed up. We're not even, we're broke. It's not going to happen. I'm thinking the worst. I'm kind of frustrated at this point, but it's like, we still got to go. Who cares? Things running now. We're going to run it until it breaks. The second day we get going and we're having a good day. So we went from first to seventh and thinking, okay, well, if we could just get on the podium, that's all we want to do. It's all we want to do. We can't worry about what anyone else is doing. And of course, Jesse, he's a little more watching and paying attention and seeing what other people are doing. And then Tom's, hey, I seen somebody time out here and this person that, and I'm like thinking, we're running good, so everything's coming together, and just keep doing what we're doing. So we finish the event, go down and turn my card into Shelly, and I'm like, hey, we got to get on the road. So tell me, are we close to the podium? And she adds it up and she goes, yeah. And I'm thinking, oh, cool, the podium, but I got to go to work tomorrow. So we're wanting to go. So we go load up everything and get ready and go over to the awards ceremony. That was kind of, like the moment there, you're calling off people, and come to find out we won the event. It was like, wow, and it reminds me, I was thinking like back in the day when I raced motocross, you fall down, and in the early stages when I first started racing, if I crashed or something like that, it was just like, screw it, I'm not going to win, I'm over it. I'd just go out and just putt around. I'd give up. And then as I got older, it was like, you know what, if I crash, I'm going to get back up. And there were a couple times where I'd crashed, got back up, and still won the moto. So that was kind of like the same thing, we flipped the car, basically threw it away in a sense, but we still have a whole nother day. So much can happen. Somebody else could be us that was ahead of us, so we stuck with it and ended up winning that event. And that put us, I think, in a tie, with Casey Aragon. And then Gilkey was moving up into the points after that one. He had a good run. I think he finished third or fourth or something like that. Mackenzie was third. It was a fun event. It was a good deal. But it was something to take away from it was never give up. We loaded up, and it was a nice drive home. And Donner
it's always
was
nice when you go home with a winner. Yes.
Exactly. So I'm feeling pretty good. Jesse's happy. There was probably 2 or 3 times we texted, and I was like, did we win? You're thinking this is what we're here for, and we're finally starting to hit our marks. So we get back, we're doing stuff to the car, and like a week before Donner, I'm up at the Funny Rocks. We went up, we did a bunch of stuff to the car again, and Kevin Hornbaker came over, him and his wife, and we were like, cool, let's go up. We're going to go play, go practice. And we get up there and get going. And of course, I'm like, it'd been a while since I'd been in the car, like since Donner. So couldn't wait to get out there. And it was a nice day, perfect situation. I go over and look at this line that I've never been on. It's pretty gnarly. It's a tough one for our cars because without rear steer and without running 42s, it was undercut really bad. We figured, okay, well, I'm gonna mess around on it a little while. But what I didn't do is wait for Jesse. And, I figured Kevin's over here. I'll just have Kevin just kind of watch for me. Not saying this is Kevin's fault or anything like that. But we didn't have the headsets on or the communication. And so I start dinking around on it, and I'm going back and forth, and I'm trying to just get it to grab and just get me to the point where I can maybe climb this thing. Struggling, so I try another line. Well, it grabs. I flip it over backwards. When it comes down, it busts the wheel and the unit bearing, and we've got next weekend in Donner. So back to the We Rock competitors site. Does anybody have a unit bearing? Does anybody have a wheel? I'm asking people that are local, hey, let me see your bead lock. What's the offset on that? I'm trying to, just come up with something. We got to go to Donner no matter what. So John Matthews, another King of the Hammer guy, and does some rock crawls as well. I get a hold of him, and John calls Trail Ready, calls them up, and anybody that's tried to get Trail Ready bead locks, they're usually on back order. You got a bit of a wait. They're pretty popular. He gets a hold of the guy. This is no joke. I literally had a brand new wheel made for me sitting at my work in 48 hours. So I'm thinking, where do I thank? Who do I hug? That was the main thing, was the wheel, because every wheel seemed like the offset was a little bit off or whatever. And so we get the same wheel. So we're good there. Eddie gets a hold of me. He's got unit bearings. He could mail them. Well, Chad Veazey over at Build It Off Road ended up getting me something and making me, between him and Blaine, another one of our friends that's very talented at fab and stuff, was able to get us squared away on the unit bearing. Everything was put back together, and Thomas spent, I don't know how many hours fixing my screw up. And we get the car together, test it, we're good to go, and load up for Donner. Get to Donner, we got to put water in that one and a couple other things, and we make the event. So Donner, very disappointing. At that point, we're in the points lead, and I'm thinking, okay, if we could win Donner, we'll win the series. First day, we go out, and everything's going just like it should. We get on to, is it the second or third course? I can't remember, but we end up pinching the throttle cable somehow. We were kind of in a weird position. It got pinched. So I'm going, and I go through this little spot, and I go up this little hill, and it was kind of ironic because Jesse goes, once you get going, you're going to have to gas it. Well, I go to gas it, and I can't get the thing to stop. I mean, it's full throttle because it's bound up where it was pinched inside the line. And I'm trying everything. So I shut the car off and I'm like, hey, this thing, we're screwed. I can't get it, So we realize that we got to do something. So we end up, I'd start it. I kept my hand on the kill switch, and I'd start it and go a little ways and shut it off. I mean, at full throttle, limp it through the course. We end up finishing with like nothing on the clock. And so that gets us some time to go assess why the throttle's sticking. And long story short, Tom figures it out, and we'll be okay. I mean, it's moving to where it's not sticking. Tyler, Harper, and Logan, they were going to go down to Summit the next day, or no, after the event, because they needed to go get some parts. So I'm like, hey, please. Of course, those guys were all about helping. So they picked me up a new throttle cable that we ended up using for the second day. But we did get through. I think we were in second place maybe at the end of the day behind Brett. We knew the second day that Brett's at this point, he's driving, running, they're doing good. They're on stride. So going into the second day, car's running good. We're doing our thing. We did hit one cone that we shouldn't have. It was, I still think Scott might have kicked it over. He was judging us, Scott Duncan. I'm not sure, but I think he did. Maybe kicked it over an extra 5 inches, but that's okay. We hit it, and I'm just kidding about that, Scott.
Yeah.
But anyways, we hit the cone. Ended up, whatever. Just keep going, keep pushing, keep doing what we do. The last course, it was, I can't remember what number it was, but it got pretty rooted out, pretty dirty. It was kind of by where the shootout started down there. And I mean, it was gnarly, especially for my car, because some of the rocks that were exposed, that car didn't have a whole lot of belly clearance. So we get going, and Jesse's like, we shouldn't do that bonus. I'm like, no, we have to do that bonus because we're too close in points. I don't want to look back and go, if we would have just done that, I'd rather do it and not be able to make it or something like that. Jesse's a little more conservative. I'm like, it's all or nothing. I don't want to be conservative. I don't want to look, like I said, look back and go, if we did that, we would have been, So we get going on this thing and get through them. And there was one that we didn't do that, it was obvious. And we finish, and we're really close to that. And I can hear my wife screaming in the thing because they're looking at the time. And I know how much, I know where I was. And, to them, they're thinking 15 seconds and you still got to go through this and that. And it's like, just, it's funny because a lot of times when I'm out there, I can hear her screaming. So we get down there, and I'm thinking I can hear her like freaking out, go, 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 and I'm thinking I'm going, just, it's okay. And we get through, and of course we didn't time out. We were close, but it was one of those things, and it was like, I know we didn't have enough. It was just in the back of my mind. And so we get down there, and of course, Brett and Shayla won. We took second. And so we were still in the points lead going to Goldendale. That is the one place we wanted to try to win Donner. And we wouldn't have had to worry about Goldendale. We could have just went and just done our thing and no pressure. And so in the back of our mind, we're like, okay, we got to go to the place that we do not want to go to because this car is, it's just not a good car for Goldendale. We didn't run the C courses the first year. So I'm thinking, I think I asked you, do we run A or C? Is it, because that was the only place we did it. And you were like, no, if you're doing the thing, you run C. So we're thinking, okay, we got the C course. That's better for us, but it was tight. And of course, we had a monsoon rain the night before, and that course was slick and muddy. And right off the bat, I think what did we do? I mean, it was like horrible. We pointed out on the first one, and I'm thinking, okay, we dug ourselves a big hole right off the bat. But we've been here before. I mean, most of the time we've come back, and we're thinking, and going into that, we won Reader. So we're feeling pretty good. We're podiuming them, or getting on the podium each time, and we're getting some rhythm. We need to, do this here at Goldendale in front of our hometown, and all our support and marketing partners and people that have followed us, they're all here. So it's time to get it done.
Just a little pressure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, I kind of like the pressure for some reason. I don't know why. I just do better under pressure. So we dig this hole, and I'm like really disappointed. I'm like disgusted. It's like, how did that just happen? So on to the next course, and we get out there, and I think this is when I finally come to the conclusion that I am going to run my own timer, because I know how you are. It doesn't matter what timer, this is the one that counts. So we get going, and I'm like, well, if that's the case, if I need to know the time, we'll just ask. We don't need a timer in the car. So the judge on that course they started it and they were counting it backwards rather than going and clicking it from 1 to 10 minutes. It went from 10 to 1. So we're out there on the course doing our thing. Everything's going good. And we're like, well, we asked the time, and they tell us the time. And we're like, oh, well, we're doing good. So we spent a little more time on this bonus thing, got through that, and came up to the next one, and we're doing our thing and going through, and all of a sudden time. And I'm like, what do you mean time? How's it time? Well, when we asked for the time, when they said the time, that was not how many minutes we were in, that was how many minutes that were left. So
which is the way they should be doing it.
Right. So it was a big difference. They were doing it opposite what they normally do. I think, yeah, so we usually go 10 to 1. She went 1 to 10.
Okay.
And that's right. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. That's why you should have your own timer. I mean, not that it's going to make a difference, but you're going to know.
At least you know where you're at on course.
Exactly. We get through that. So now we timed out. So we pointed out and we've timed out. And then the next two courses, we were negative 20, 30, somewhere in there on both of them. We did well, did our normal, for us that, we felt we had a pretty good run the rest of the day. So we go into the second day. Course is a lot better. Now we're running some tougher stuff, and it's, we start doing our thing and things are going good, and I break a cable on my transfer case. So luckily I was locked in, but I mean, for that car, I need to be able to lock, unlock. My cutting brakes were everything. I mean, I would get done with an event and go to work the next Monday and pull onto a job site and feel like I needed to grab my cutting brake to get around a piece of equipment or through a gate or, somewhere. It's like, I just need to burn this over or dig here or whatever. And, it's just like, Jesus. So we break the cable and we're in 4-wheel drive. So, I mean, at least we're not open and we're able to just keep doing our thing. And we struggled a little bit, and we knew we weren't going to win. We knew at that point it was pretty much, we're not going to win the championship. We're done, but we want to finish strong, and it's, hey, still anything can happen type of deal. And we went to the last course. I think it was C1 that was on the hill there. And even now, I don't know if it was me or if it was a cable, but we were in a tough spot. And I don't know if like I went to push the brake and push the gas, or if the throttle stuck. We were doing good. We got through the hard parts of that thing. And I thought, we're going to run this thing clean. And this is the one that everybody was struggling on and whatnot, and had a pretty good plan, and everything was going like it should. And away we went down the hill, and that was the end of it for Goldendale. We were talking about nationals. So if we won the championship, we were going to the nationals. If we didn't, we're done. The more I thought about it, is it right for me to just say, I'm going to go no matter what? And for me and my position and all the people that invested in me, I felt like I need to go. So I knew Jesse couldn't go, but I was begging and twisting, and same with Tom. And I was trying to get those guys, if there was any way, shape, or form, to come with me to be there and do this. And there was just no way. Everybody was out of time, at work. I'm lucky where I'm at. I've been there a long time. I got a lot of vacation and sick pay. So I was fine on the days. And so I asked Jeremy Sodorf, I'm like, hey, you want to go to nationals? He's like, heck yeah, I'm in. He gets his rig whipped back into shape from Goldendale. We were just like, screw it. It's just you and I. My wife couldn't go. Jesse, Tom, Jesse's wife, she came to all the events too and helped out with some of the planning and some of the stuff. So huge thanks to her too. So Jeremy and I come up with this game plan and load up his Toyota and my buggy in the trailer and take off, and headed for Farmington. We got down there early so we could go do some of the other stuff, Friday night, the stuff, or was it Thursday night? I can't remember.
Friday
night. We got
night.
down there early and went and attended all the stuff. It was cool. That was fun. That place, I would love to just go down there and go for a week and go run some of that stuff. There's so much stuff that was down there that, even in people's backyards, I wanted to knock on the door and just say, hey, can I go drive my buggy in your backyard on some of your rocks? It was cool. It was, let's see, we got everything squared away. The first day, struggled a little bit. Jeremy and I, I don't care who or what. Everybody's a little different, and I'm used to Jesse, and Jeremy, hand signals and what he calls something's a little different. And it just, I think we were in like third or fourth, maybe fifth, but everybody was really close after the first day. We knew that we left plenty to improve on the table. So going into the second day, I felt like we're right where we need to be, and let's just go do what we do. And the first course, we get out there, everything's going great. We come up to this deal where I got to burn the front over, and I go to do it, and the brakes, they felt real spongy, and I'm pulling back, and I'm like, gosh, and he's like, grab the brake and lock it up. I'm like, it is. And he goes, no, it isn't. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm serious. And we're kind of arguing, and all of a sudden, and Jeremy is like really chill, easy going. He's just, don't argue with me. No, you're not. And I'm like laughing in my head. I'm like, wow, I've never seen this side of him, and I'm kind of cracking up. He doesn't want me to argue with him. And it's like, so long story short, we ended up either pointing out or timing out or something. And there was like a cone that we thought we'd went through, and we ended up going over and got with the judge, and it was irrelevant at the end of the day. We go back and we're thinking, okay, we got air in the line or something like that, because there's no fluid anywhere. We're trying to figure this out, and we can't figure out why we have no brakes. At that point, it was just handbrakes. So take it back, take the breakdown time, go back to the pits, go through it. We're making phone calls and trying to figure out, trying to get a hold of Tom, because he'd been the one that had, he knows how the systems, what do you think? What's your suggestion? So we go through and we bleed them, and we're thinking, okay, now I have brakes. So I drive up to the next course and get up on the deal, ready to go. Tried to mess around with it a little bit, but we knew we were running out of time, so we couldn't really test it too much. So we get up there. Soon as I get on course, I realize that they're starting to fade again. So I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Go through the first couple. Now they're getting way down there, and there's this big climb that we were going to try to climb it and then cut back over. And I needed to use my handbrakes. This is when I realized that they were like almost totally gone. And I go to grab them, and there's like nothing. And I go over and roll the car down the rock, and it lands on its wheels. And I'm thinking, okay, well, let's just keep going. Go back around. Now I know I don't have brakes. I'm just like, I'm going for nothing. If we can finish this course, get up this deal, we can go back to the pits and see what we can figure out. It'll buy us some time. So I go up, get up on top, go to the next obstacle. I make it up the deal we rolled down, and go through the next, go to set up for the next set of cones. And I put my foot on the brake, and we just keep on going. And I'm like, we're done, at that point. And that pretty much we struggled a little bit at the end. I mean, Brett won the regular season championship, but something for him, and the cool thing about it is those guys, his car ran good the whole time. I know he just sold it. He's looking to move up into the unlimited class as well, but it's consistency. I mean, you might not win every single one, but at the end of it, if you can stay consistent, you're going to be in the hunt. And that's, they actually did win a couple events too. So
consistency is big. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, it was awesome. I mean, the camaraderie, the thing that I would say is the coolest thing to me about this We Rock and this series is it's like family. You go and it's the same people. Everybody's helping everybody and looking out for everybody, even like the unlimited guys. I mean, they're walking around. I mean, these guys that you look at and you're thinking they're God, I mean, these are the guys, you've seen them on TV. They're in all the videos. They're, it's awesome. So to go back a little ways, the guy that comes over, first event, Baghdad, and we're doing the fuel pump thing, and he comes over, and I'm looking at his hauler, and I'm like, that is awesome. He's got cool car, I'm thinking, and he's talking to us. I mean, why does he even give two, that we're having issues? Comes over, and I mean, he's there like 20 minutes trying to help us out. Come to find out, it's Jeff McKinley. And I mean, you've seen what he did last year. He won everything he entered, pretty much. But to take the time and, somebody you didn't know, sportsman car, I mean, I don't think there's anybody that competes out there with us that's got the too cool for school attitude, where they're arrogant, I mean, there isn't one person that I came across myself that I noticed that. I mean, everybody was willing to help. Everybody had parts they were willing to give. Sometimes we were giving up parts to other people. I mean, everybody, Casey Aragon and those guys, doing what they did to help. I mean, everybody, it seems like, will chip in to get the next guy. I mean, who wants to win on default anyways? But it was just the people. It's amazing how everybody's just willing to get in and help compared to like doing the motocross thing. I mean, you might give somebody something one week and they wouldn't give you a spark plug the next if they thought that, if it was a points deal.
Yeah, that's the one thing I like about the rock crawlers is people want to beat you on course, not out in the parking lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
Yeah. Like Goldendale. For me, I I know that's a long drive for everybody, and I know that it's not everybody's favorite, but more so, I mean, I think it's a drive. But I'll tell you, I did not want to go, and I look back and it's like, God, if those guys didn't show up, I would have been fine. But think of how many sportsman guys, everybody that was minus Mackenzie because they were waiting on parts, but everybody that was kind of in the points made it to that event. I mean, Tyler, Logan,
Yep.
Miles, Casey.
It was awesome.
Everybody was there that was in contention. So for me, that's what I wanted anyways. I mean, to be the best, you got to beat the best in your class. And it was a fun event. It was cool watching Jesse go out there in the Roxer. I mean, it was just a fun event last year.
Cool.
There.
So to wrap this all up, you've got a new buggy.
Yep.
You're going to campaign that in which class?
We're moving up to unlimited. Yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Excellent.
That was our goal all along. I mean, talking with Jesse, he was kind of wanting, if we were to go, maybe run one more year, try to win a championship in sportsman. In my mind, I mean, yeah, but for me, where I was is if I was able to get into a car, I mean, I wanted to buy Jesse Haynes' old buggy. I didn't know McKinley was selling his car. I mean, I was trying to do something. It was just the timing on everything. My wife, she had back surgery again that was unexpected. So that set us back. We weren't even going to compete actually this year. We were just going to take the year off, sell that car, try to find a car, whatever we had to do or whatever we could come up with for the next season. And it was kind of weird because once again, Eddie sends me this picture of this car and I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, that's kind of what we're looking and the direction, something like this that we could move up to the unlimited class and have something that hopefully would be competitive. And then, you got to start somewhere. We're right back to, we got to start somewhere. So I wanted to move up as quick as I could just because like in motocross, I mean, you can stay in the same class and ride with slow guys or guys that you're beating all the time and you're not going to get any faster. Or you go up to the tougher competition and you raise your level, and that's the only way I'm going to get there. So
cool.
That's where it is. I'm looking forward to going out there and learning from, the guys that have been there, the ones that have set the standards, and just go out there and do what we can do. I mean, that's all I can do. And Eddie's actually spotting for me this year. We haven't talked a whole lot with this COVID thing going on, so I don't know if it'll still fit his schedule for the rest of the season, but I will say that we plan on running the rest of the We Rock series and doing the unlimited class
Excellent.
And courses and, moving forward. It's exciting. And that's from the time we started, that was our main goal, is to get up and run with those guys and just get better at what we do.
Well, excellent. Well, I want to thank you for coming on board and sitting here talking with us. And I will let you know when, we're going to air the episode. But thank you for coming on board with
thanks for
Conversations with Big Rich and talking about your story.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me, Rich. Like I said, I want to thank everybody that's made this possible and look forward to seeing everybody at Cedar City.
There you go. Cedar City's a great spot.
Looking forward to it. I haven't been to that one. It's what seems like everybody says that's one of the best, or it was their favorite or whatever. So let's go.
All right. You take care. Thank you very much.
You too. You bet. Thank you, Rich. Take care.
If you enjoy these podcasts, please give us a rating. Share some feedback with us via Facebook or Instagram, and share our link among your friends who might be like-minded. Well, that brings this episode to an end. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you next week with Conversations with Big Rich. Thank you very much.